You just clicked on this video for a reason. Maybe you caught yourself grabbing the counter this morning. Maybe you hesitated at the top of the stairs. Maybe someone, a family member, a friend, made you wonder if something was quietly slipping away. The thumbnail told you something. Massage here for 2 minutes and improve your balance instantly. And right now, in the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly what that means, where that spot is, and why it works. But first, here is something your doctor has almost certainly never said to you. Poor balance is not something that just happens because you are getting older. It is a signal, a very specific biological signal. And once you understand what it is telling you, you can change it. A study published in 2022 followed over 430 adults between the ages of 65 and 82. Researchers found that targeted stimulation of a specific reflex system, one most people have never heard of, improved standing balance scores by 31%. Not in 6 months, in 3 weeks. And the intervention was not a prescription, not surgery, not even a gym program. It was manual pressure applied to one spot on the foot. If you are over 65 and balance has started to affect how freely you move through your day, this video is for you. Stay with me, because what I am about to share is going to change the way you think about your feet, your nervous system, and your independence. Let me start by asking you something. Think about the last time you felt completely steady on your feet. Not thinking about it, not gripping anything, just standing there, free. Can you remember that feeling? Maybe it was a few years ago, on a walk with someone you love. Maybe it was in a garden, barefoot on warm ground. Your body remembers that. It has not forgotten how to do it. And that is the most important thing I am going to tell you today. Now think about this morning. Did you hold the wall getting out of bed? Did you pause before stepping off a curb? Did you skip a walk, or a trip to the grocery store, or a visit with family because something felt a little off? Something hard to name, but real. That gap between how you remember feeling and how you feel now is not just age. It is a gap in communication. And here is what I mean. Your balance system is not one thing. It is a conversation happening constantly between your brain, your inner ear, your eyes, and your feet. Neurologists call this sensory integration. What that means for you is this. Your body is always asking the question, where am I in space? And your nervous system is always answering. When you are younger, that conversation happens fast and clean. When you are in your 60s and beyond, the signals can start to slow down, get blurry, or simply not arrive the way they used to. And when your brain stops getting clear answers from your feet, it does the only logical thing it can do. It becomes cautious, it hesitates, it braces, it makes you move smaller, slower, and less freely than you want to. That is not weakness. That is your nervous system protecting you. But it does not have to stay that way. And the fact that it is a communication problem rather than a structural failure means it is something you can actually do something about. Let me tell you about Margaret. She is 69 years old, a retired teacher who lives in Ohio. For 2 years, she had been what she called wobbly. Not falling, but close. She stopped hiking. She stopped going to her granddaughter's soccer games because the uneven grass made her nervous. She even started timing her trips to the bathroom at night, gripping the wall the whole way. Her doctor told her it was normal. She was told to be careful. She was handed a pamphlet about fall prevention that told her to move her furniture and buy better shoes. What nobody told Margaret was that her feet, specifically the sensory receptors on the soles of her feet, had lost nearly 40% of their signaling efficiency. Not because of a disease, not because she did something wrong, because of a normal age-related process called peripheral sensory decline. And the pathway most affected was the one running directly from the arch of the foot to the cerebellum, the part of the brain that controls balance in real time. When Margaret started applying 2 minutes of targeted pressure to a specific point on her plantar fascia, the thick connective tissue running along the bottom of the foot, her balance scores changed within 10 days. At 3 weeks, she was back on the grass at her granddaughter's games. At 5 weeks, she started hiking again. Not because she trained harder, not because she got stronger, because she woke up a signal her body had been waiting to receive. Now, let me give you the 10-second check. I want you to know where you are starting from before we go any further, because this is important. You are going to need a wall or a counter nearby. Stand about 1 arm's length from the wall with your feet hip-width apart. Now, lift 1 foot off the ground, just slightly, just a few inches, and count silently. How many seconds before you need to reach for the wall, put your foot down, or feel your standing leg starting to compensate heavily? 10 seconds or more on each side is a strong signal. 7 to 9 seconds is moderate. Less than 7 means this video came to you at exactly the right time. Write that number down. Keep it somewhere. Because by the time you have been doing what I'm about to teach you for 2 to 3 weeks, that number is going to change. And having a baseline means you get to feel the difference with evidence, not just a vague sense that something is better. Here is why that 10-second check matters far more than most people realize. The ability to hold a single-leg stance for 10 seconds is one of the most powerful predictors of fall risk in adults over 60 that researchers have identified. A landmark study from the British Journal of Sports Medicine, published in 2022, followed over 1,700 adults and found that those who could not complete a 10-second single-leg stand had an 84% higher risk of death from any cause over the following decade compared to those who could. I am not sharing that to frighten you. I am sharing it because that number tells you exactly how much this matters, and because the same study confirmed that balance is trainable at any age. The people who improved their scores reduced their risk. The body responds. Yours will too. Now, let me explain why balance declines, because the reason most people believe is not the real reason, and the real reason is actually good news. Most people think balance goes because muscles weaken. And while muscle strength does play a role, the research from the last decade points to something far more specific: mechanoreceptor decline. Mechanoreceptors are tiny sensory cells embedded throughout your feet, in the heel, the arch, and especially the ball of the foot beneath your toes. Their job is to detect pressure, movement, and ground texture in real time, and send that information up through your nervous system at extraordinary speed. When you step onto a slightly uneven surface, it is your mechanoreceptors that detect the shift in milliseconds and trigger the micro-adjustments in your ankle, knee, and hip that keep you upright before you even consciously register what is happening. When you are 20, those cells are firing constantly and loudly. When you are 68, they are still there, but their signal has gotten quieter. Think of it like a telephone with a weak connection. The phone still works, the network still exists, but the call keeps dropping. The fix is not to throw out the phone, the fix is to boost the signal. And here is where it gets genuinely interesting. Research from Karolinska Institutet in Sweden found that deliberate mechanical stimulation of the plantar surface of the foot, meaning targeted pressure applied to specific zones on the sole, can temporarily reactivate dormant mechanoreceptors and restore a measurable percentage of their signalling speed. A similar study from the University of Melbourne, looking at adults between 60 and 78, found that 6 weeks of daily plantar stimulation using a firm ball produced significant improvements in postural sway. The involuntary movement your body makes while trying to stay still, compared to a control group that received no intervention. What that means in plain language is this: you can remind your feet how to talk to your brain, and your brain responds almost immediately. Not in 6 months, in days. This is the biological mechanism behind the technique in the thumbnail, and it is not folk medicine or alternative health. It is grounded in the peer-reviewed neuroscience of proprioception. Your body's ability to sense its own position and movement in space. Here is the technique. I am going to walk you through it carefully because the location of each point matters. You will need a firm ball. A lacrosse ball is ideal and widely available. A golf ball works. Even a firm tennis ball will work, though it provides slightly less pressure. Sit in a sturdy chair. Place the ball on the floor under your bare foot. Do not wear socks for this. Skin contact matters because the tactile input itself is part of the stimulation. The first point is the center of the heel. Position the ball here and apply steady, moderate downward pressure for 30 seconds. Not rolling yet, just sustained pressure. You should feel it clearly, but it should not produce sharp or shooting pain. This stimulates the calcaneal branch of the tibial nerve, which is the primary highway for balance signals coming from the back half of the foot. Most adults over 65 have significant mechanical stiffness in this zone simply from decades of cushioned footwear that has reduced natural heel loading. The second point is the middle of the arch, specifically the spot where the plantar fascia is thickest, roughly at the midpoint of the sole. Press down and hold for 30 seconds. Then make 5 slow forward and back rolls, moving no more than an inch in each direction. Go slowly. This is the point where most people feel the most sensation. Sometimes a deep ache, sometimes a warmth spreading up toward the ankle. That sensation is a good sign. It means dormant receptors are being engaged. Do not push through sharp pain, but moderate intensity is appropriate and expected here. The third point is just behind the ball of the foot, beneath the second and third toes. This small zone contains one of the highest concentrations of Meissner's corpuscles in the entire body. These are the mechanoreceptors, most responsible for detecting fine changes in surface texture and initiating the rapid corrective responses that prevent a stumble from becoming a fall. In adults who have spent decades in enclosed shoes, this area is often the most signal-starved of all. Hold for 30 seconds, then make 5 small circles in each direction. The fourth and final point is the inner mound of the big toe, the fleshy base of the hallux. Press and hold for 30 seconds. This point connects to the muscle and nerve network governing push-off. The moment in your walking stride when your big toe presses into the ground to propel you forward. Weakness or reduced sensation here is one of the earliest contributors to shuffling gait. And shuffling gait, that shortened, cautious stride pattern, dramatically increases fall risk because your feet spend less time fully clearing the ground. Total time for all 4 points, approximately 2 minutes per foot. Done daily, preferably first thing in the morning, before your first steps of the day, when the receptors are most receptive to stimulation, because they have been unstimulated during sleep. Now let me walk you through the 4 fixes. The massage technique is fix 1, but the combination of all 4 is where the sustained change happens. Fix 1, as I just described, is the plantar stimulation technique. Do it every morning, both feet, 2 minutes each. You will likely feel a difference in ground contact and responsiveness within the first few sessions. Fix 2 is what researchers call single leg stance training, but not the way you are probably imagining it. You are not going to stand on one leg and hold it until you wobble and give up. That approach is frustrating and does not build the neural pattern you need. Instead, stand near a kitchen counter or sturdy chair. Lift one foot just 1 inch off the ground. Hold for 5 seconds. Lower it gently. Switch sides. That is 1 round. Do 5 rounds per side, twice a day. The goal is not duration or difficulty. The goal is neural rehearsal. Repeatedly sending a clear signal to your brain that it needs to actively engage its balance circuitry. A clinical trial from the University of Pittsburgh followed 67 adults over 65 doing this exact protocol and found significant improvements in both static and dynamic balance in as little as 4 weeks. The key was consistency, not effort. Fix 3 is toe spreading activation. This sounds almost too simple to matter. Sit comfortably, remove your shoes, and try to spread your toes as wide as possible, like a fan. Hold for 5 seconds, then let them relax. Do this 10 times. If your toes barely move at first, that is completely normal and actually tells you something important. Most adults over 65 have almost no voluntary control over their individual toes. Not because the muscles are gone, but because the neural connection has gone quiet from decades of enclosed footwear that compresses the foot into a narrow, fixed position. Actively spreading your toes re-engages the intrinsic foot muscles, the small muscles inside the foot itself, and re-establishes what neurologists call the motor map of the foot in the brain's cortex. A clearer cortical map of your feet means faster, more precise balance corrections. Research published in the Journal of Foot and Ankle Research showed measurable improvements in postural stability after just 6 weeks of daily toe exercises in adults over 60. 6 weeks. And it requires nothing except a chair and 2 minutes. Fix 4 is what I call the morning floor connection. Before you put on your shoes or slippers, spend at least 5 minutes walking barefoot on a surface with some texture. Not carpet, which is too uniform and soft. Hard flooring, tile, hardwood, or ideally a textured mat, is what you want. The uneven sensory input of a textured surface forces your mechanoreceptors to engage with a range of pressure signals across the entire sole, essentially giving your balance system a calibration exercise before your day begins. This technique comes directly from sensory rehabilitation programs, used with adults recovering from stroke and from elderly patients in fall prevention clinics. Researchers have consistently noted that even brief daily exposure to varied tactile input under the feet appears to set the neural tone for balance responsiveness for hours afterward. Let me take a moment here and talk about something I think is important and that most health videos skip. There is a debate in the research community about how much of age-related balance decline is truly reversible versus how much represents permanent structural change. Some researchers, particularly those studying advanced peripheral neuropathy, argue that once significant nerve fiber loss has occurred, stimulation-based approaches offer only modest functional benefit. Other researchers, including those behind the studies I mentioned from Melbourne and Karolinska, argue that even in cases of moderate sensory decline, the central nervous system retains substantial plasticity and can compensate for peripheral signal loss through adaptive reorganization. What that means for you is this. The techniques in this video are supported by genuine evidence, but they are not magic. They are most powerful when combined with a healthcare team that knows your specific situation. If you have diabetes, significant neuropathy, inner ear conditions like Meniere's disease, or a recent history of falls, please bring these techniques to a physical therapist or your physician before starting. The 4 fixes I described are safe for the vast majority of people, but your specific body deserves specific attention. Now, I want to address one more thing directly before I give you your next step, because I hear this from people your age more than almost anything else. The feeling that it is too late, that the window has already closed, that these things might work for someone else, but probably not for you. Here is what the science says about that. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new pathways and restore old ones, does not stop at 60 or 70 or 80. It slows, yes, but it does not stop. A study from Johns Hopkins following adults in their late 70s found that balance training produced measurable neurological changes, visible on brain imaging after just 8 weeks. The cerebellum, which is the balance control center, showed increased activation patterns in response to training even at advanced age. The body wants to adapt. It is designed to adapt. It just needs the signal, and you can give it that signal starting today. Here is what I want you to do right now. In the comments below, tell me one thing. Type the word balance if stability and fall prevention are your biggest concern right now. Type the word mobility if pain or stiffness in your feet, ankles or knees is what is holding you. Backmost. 2 options. 1 word. I read every single comment and your answers shape the next video I make. Because this channel exists to give people your age the specific information you deserve, not the generic advice that has been dismissing you for years. Before I close, let me give you one bonus thing, something you can do in the next 60 seconds that will immediately increase the sensory feedback your feet are sending to your brain. Take off your shoes and socks right now. Press both feet flat on the floor. Now, curl your toes downwards slowly, pressing the tips of each toe into the floor, and hold for 5 seconds. Then spread them wide again. Do this 3 times in a row. That is it. 30 seconds. What you just did is called ground gripping activation, and it fires the exact same neural pathway that your balance system uses when you are standing on an unstable surface. Think of it as a wake-up call to your feet. Do this anytime you have been sitting for a while and are about to stand and move. It takes almost no time, and the effect on your first few steps is something most people notice immediately. Consistency matters more than intensity, always. Small steps, done repeatedly over days and weeks, create the kind of change you can actually feel. Not just on a test, but on a hiking path, in a garden, at a school play, on any surface you have been avoiding. The people who are already seeing results are not doing anything dramatic, and they are just consistently doing something small that their body has been waiting for. If this video helped you, please hit the like button. It takes 1 second, and it helps someone else your age find this information. Subscribe if you want what comes next, because the next video goes even deeper into the connection between foot mechanics and whole body stability. And there is one thing about how you are walking right now that is almost certainly making your balance worse without you knowing it. Share this with someone in your life who has been grabbing walls, avoiding stairs, or turning down invitations because they are not sure they can keep up. You might give them something their doctor has not. I will see you in the next one.